you are a radio personality in Korea, but you didn't come here to do radio. You came here as a kid, right? What is your unique story? You were here when you at least visited when you were young, right?
I came. So story. You've learned already the beginnings. I was born in Hong Kong,
yes,
and we only lived there for about a year and a half. So I have no recollection of growing up in Hong Kong.
Sure.
When it was part of British territory. Let's not go into British history too much. So we moved back to the UK when I was like 1.5.
Yeah.
And my mum was homesick so badly.
Yeah,
I only have memories from my youth of mum being, I want to go to Korea as soon as possible. So we came pretty much every summer holiday.
Wow.
Since maybe 1985-ish.
Well, you got to get your kimchi fix.
Yeah, I used to hate kimchi with a passion. I was such a fussy kid, because I was an only child. And so only sons, especially in old day Korea, they're treated like kings. And so I was super fussy, hated the smell of kimchi. My dad didn't really like kimchi either, so my mum had to she didn't eat it in secret because she was the boss of the house, but she'd just eat it by herself, not with us. But yeah, we came every year. So I saw Korea from mid-80s until now. I moved here proper in 2008. So about 10 years in total because we went back to the UK in between 2020. But yeah, it changed so much since I was a little kid. But I always loved it, even when it was not as well developed.
What were the same things? I imagine that norebangs, the singing rooms, haven't changed at all. Because except for the luxury ones, they look like they were built in the 70s.
Well, I don't know. The big difference was there just wasn't much in Seoul when I used to come.
Really?
That doesn't seem that long ago. Well, maybe to people who are, what is it after millennials? Generation X or Z, right?
Well, yeah, there's an in-betweener.
Okay. For those people, 1980 seems like forever ago, right?
Oh, yeah. That's beyond classic rock.
Yeah, but for us, that's not that long ago. It's only 30 years ago or so.
Don't lump me in there. I'm a middle millennial.
You're way younger than me, Alex. But the Gangnam area was really underdeveloped.
Right.
Apgujeong in that area at that time was still rural marshland kind of things. Yeah. And I remember Gosok Terminal, which is kind of still a landmark, the express bus terminal. That was about the only thing.
Oh my gosh.
And then it was just surrounded by fields and stuff like that, and then buildings going up.
So you had to drive or take a bus to get to the terminal surrounded by nothing, and then you can go anywhere in Korea.
Yeah, my mum's hometown was Pyeongtaek.
Oh,
so we used to get the bus from there to Pyeongtaek.
Wow. And do they have trains back? They didn't have KTX back then, right?
No, that's really modern, isn't it? That's 2000.
So they had trains, but not
and
fast trains.
We didn't really get on trains when I was here. We'd drive around with our family. They'd take us to Busan. Do you know, back in those days, God, I sound old.
I mean, we're millennials.
Yes. I just squeeze in, by the way, being born in the early 80s. But getting down to Busan, I remember we'd go maybe every few summers that we visited, and it took about 8 hours. And that's not at Chuseok time. That's just normal, no traffic times.
Yeah.
Because you had to go around all the mountains. Korea now has so many tunnels.
Yeah.
But yeah, the roads back then were different. The cars were so rudimentary. It was first generation. I don't know if you've even ever been in one. A pony. That was the first car in Korea.
That's a car.
Yeah. I was actually my first car in Britain because I wanted a Hyundai and it was the Pony X2.
Oh my gosh.
Terrible car.
I bet if you told that to someone in the 80s or 90s in America, they'd have been like, wow, they still ride ponies. What an interesting culture they have.
Yeah, the other cheesy name for a car was the Le Mans. You know, the Le Mans is not Grand Prix, but a car race in France that lasts 24 hours.
Yeah. So is that how long the car lasted?
Yeah, basically, really. But we used to call it, because the pronunciation was not spot on, a dumang. And yeah, so there were loads of older cars. I don't know about the norebangs, to be honest, because I was a kid.
Yeah.
So when I was a kid, I only saw kiddie things. I used to go to the department store that collapsed. Do you know about that story?
Gosh.
The Sampung.
Yeah.
My auntie used to live next to there. And so that was the department store of the day. But compared to the new ones. Are we allowed to say brand names on here?
Yeah, sure.
Please sponsor us, Shinsegae. Give us some vouchers.
You're legit.
Shinsegae and Hyundai are proper nice department stores now, right? But back then, it was really basic, and that was what the high class people were kind of consuming. So it was, I don't know how to say it. It wasn't undeveloped. It wasn't like a third world country, but it was definitely just on its journey of kind of becoming developed.
I mean, just to kind of symbolize how much it's changed, I taught some kid tutoring at the very spot where it collapsed.
Oh my goodness.
Like,
okay, and it wasn't like a building site then.
No, it's like a luxury apartment.
It's
like
nice, isn't it?
Expensive.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's kind of like they moved on now. I mean,
totally.
it was, I don't know if it's the exact same location, but I believe the land is the same. And I'm just like, man, it's completely, I want to say symbolically pushed away the past, but I mean, that could be a good thing too.
Yeah.
They've moved on.
The terrible memories.
That was terrible. But you were like in England when that happened?
At the time, but my auntie, like I said, she lived next door. She went to the department store the morning it collapsed.
Oh my gosh.
Like she used to go there every day. She used to spend a lot of money. Auntie, if you're listening, I'm sorry for revealing your spending habits.
What,
but yeah, she
we have that, that Korean older listenership joining in right now to our first show.
Absolutely. And they might be proud of their spending power. But yeah,
that's true.
She went there in the morning and then we called her that afternoon when we heard the news on BBC.
Yeah.
And we're like, you okay? And she was like, yeah, thankfully I came out before lunch and I think it collapsed in the afternoon. But it was a close shave, yeah. And
that was like hundreds of people died in that one, right? Like 500 or something. It was some high number. I don't remember what it was.
It was hundreds and hundreds. And then there was that one survivor who they found, I think, after a couple of weeks. And the first thing she said to the cameras was, "Can I get a Coke?" And so Coke have sponsored her for life, apparently. A lifetime supply of Coca-Cola. Yeah. You know when you're thirsty, you want a sugary fizzy drink.
Yeah.
What good branding for them, yeah.
That's incredible. So, 502 people.
Goodness gracious, yeah. And that was when Korea went through a few, embarrassing and tragic collapses. Like the bridge collapsed as well, I think. Was it Seongsu-daegyo? I'm not sure exactly, but one of the Han bridges. And many students on a bus passed away.
Jeez.
And there are a few instances of that. And, at that time as well, Korean Airlines and Asiana were seen as some of the most unsafe airlines in the world. They had a few crashes and stuff. We used to always fly on foreign airlines for that reason. But now they're one of the best, like Korean Air in terms of service.
I wouldn't fly in an American airline.
Yeah.
Actually, I do because they're cheaper.
This is the case, these days. It's changed like 180, the kind of view of Korea.
Yeah,
I think.
They had so many. I don't want to call them like one-off disasters, but kind of like big moment disasters, like the airplane crashes. Not always their fault. I know one of them was like shot down by a Russian missile or something.
Yeah, that was one. I think there was some terrorism as well from a North Korean on one that exploded and stuff. So yeah, it wasn't always human error.
And then I think that's kind of the big. I don't know if you would say this, but maybe the big transition, even though I think the department store was still a little after it, that big transition point is the Olympics, right? 88 is kind of the symbolic changeover.
Yeah.
How big was that for you and your family, or at least your family, when that happened?
So I was like 5, revealing my exact age.
Exact age, yeah.
And I don't remember if we came that exact summer, to be honest. I think we avoided the peak season. I didn't go and see anything.
Sure.
But my relatives, my cousins, they lived in the Olympic apartments because it's all in Chamsil, like the main complex, right? And it's still there, the Olympic Stadium.
Yeah.
It looks beautiful still as well.
It's an impressive everything. The whole area is really nice. And even the park, which is just Olympic Park.
Yeah, that's like a massive park in Seoul. But they live right next to the stadium. So I remember just a year or two after we went and we just play in the grounds of it and stuff. And it was like, wow, Seoul had an Olympics. And the one thing I remember, I was watching it on the TV, I remember now, was Ben Johnson and him getting done for drugs. He got stripped of his medal.
That was 88.
That was the big news
from
that Olympics,
Was he the American or the Canadian?
I think Canadian.
The Canadian, right?
Yeah, and he got done for drugs, and they handed the gold medal to someone else. But yeah, that was such a proud moment for Korea. And I think that was the start of us really wanting to host international events, seeing it as a thing of pride. So then we had the 2002 World Cup and the 2018 Pyeongchang Olympics.
Yeah.
And that's kind of ingrained in Korean people. If we do a big international event, we've made it kind of thing.
Yeah, I think that may have been like an almost psychological transition point where it's like the Olympics in 88 kind of proved to themselves like, okay, we are here.
Exactly.
Right?
We've arrived.
We've arrived. There's so much that changed. Do you have anything, when thinking about like Korea and how much it's changed, is there anything that was better back then that you kind of miss from the past? Maybe not when you were 5, but like 15, 20, 30 years ago, even when you first came to Korea 2008
Yeah.
to live?
Yeah, I miss a lot of old Korea. You know, Korea now is like many places on earth, especially Seoul. Because, I live in Seoul. We spend most of our time in Seoul.
Yeah.
So that's what we think of as Korea as a whole. Like, still rural areas, I'm sure, are very much in the past in a good way.
Mm-hmm.
But Korea, like many big cities, is kind of the same as many other big cities.
I think Korea is more in the future than a lot of American cities.
Oh, yeah.
If you put it that way.
That for sure. Definitely the buildings, the skyscrapers, the subway system.
It's very modern.
But in terms of the brands you see,
Oh, yeah.
there's too many like bog standard brands that you'll see in London, that you'll see in Madrid, that you'll see in, I don't know, New York and stuff. And I miss that kind of independent store vibe or Korean brands. Do you know, I think it is still alive. There was this fashion brand called, I think it was Samji. It was like spelt with two S's, A-M, and then a Z-I-E or something. And that used to be...
a Z for us American listeners.
Yes, not a Z. But that used to be a popular fashion brand here.
I had no idea what that is.
And now we just have, obviously the big Korean conglomerates, some of them have their own fashion brands, and there are some big ones that have spread to like Southeast Asia. But we've got so many European and American brands here.
Well, Japanese and Korean, even like the levels that I shop at are kind of basic. 'Cause I don't do like the Italian brands. I'm just like, all right, if it's not top 10 or Uniqlo. Are we allowed to go Uniqlo anymore? Is that still
I
off
don't
limits?
think so.
I don't think so. Okay.
They're closing down here and there.
Yeah,
they
that's
got
Japanese
some
one.
decent stuff for cheap prices, though, I must say.
Who went top 10 and what's that other one that's super popular around H&M, 8 Seconds and H&M. Where's H&M?
That's from Scandinavia.
That's it. Yeah, they got all that here. I do miss like when we first came here, it was a bigger deal to go to like Dongdaemun or Namdaemun, find some like really cool clothes that were either vintage or like kind of knockoff.
Yeah, absolutely. That was okay. And like when I was younger, I don't know, you could tell 100% this is Korea. There were a few global brands. Like my wife tells me the first time I think Kentucky Fried Chicken came into the country was such a big deal. And everyone was like, wow, now Korean chicken, is the thing. But back then, to have a KFC was like a pilgrimage. It was amazing. And so there was Pizza Hut, there was McDonald's when I was younger, but most things were Korean, you know? And I don't want to sound, I don't know, racist or stuck in my ways, but I like that about a place. I want a place to have its own feel. You
racist.
Absolutely. Racist, half Peter.
I don't think I'm allowed to make that judgment.
No, but I like that a place has its own character and culture. You know, globalization's great, but it means that all the best brands from everywhere seem to spread everywhere.
Yeah.
And then they kind of change the color of that city or that town.
Yeah.
And the smell, this sounds weird, but the smell of Korea when I was young was so distinct. I don't know exactly what it was. It was a mix of things like, do you know the thing napatalin? Here in Korea. I think it's mothballs.
Oh, okay.
So you put this little capsule in your cupboard to stop your clothes getting eaten. And it has this really strong chemical smell. And everyone used to put them in their wardrobes, and your clothes would just reek of that.
Oh, that's lovely.
I loved it. Like because it reminded me of coming to Korea.
Sure, yeah.
And then it was a smell of kind of construction, I think. Back in the day when they didn't care about safety, like all the dust would come out of the construction sites and all the diesel fuel. But that smell for me was like Seoul. Now when I come to Seoul, it just smells like any other place.
Yeah.
Like, there's no particular smell, I think, right?
No, I can't. No. I'm trying to, you got me thinking now, like.
When I got off the plane when I was a kid and you'd come to Gimpo back then, not Incheon.
Right.
That was the international airport. You'd smell it as soon as you got in the terminal building. Oh, I'm in Korea. It was like a mixture of kind of like taxi ajashi sweat and like construction. And it was... Yeah, if you just looked at it objectively, it's probably not a nice smell. But for me, it was like the memory of being in Korea.